close my email. Let me close Slack. It's a generally good thing for me to do on recorded messages, meetings. So the challenge, because this project has two consumers, we apply the same set of patches for each of the consumers, is there's some things that we do in the web-ide which are not needed or wanted in workspaces. So how do we separate? Okay, we have a common set of patches. We have workspace specific set of patches, and we have web-ide specific set of patches. And there's kind of an ordering here too as well. That's the problem. I have an idea in my head of how I can implement it. But before I did that, I was really hoping to be on a call with other people to talk out the solution, because I couldn't help but think, am I about to like write some script and logic to solve a problem that's implemented by branches and or just create another project? Like, why do we really want workspaces and the web-ide to share this project? What if this is wild? What if the workspaces, so what if we had GitLab workspaces VSCode fork, and it was a fork of this fork?
Oh, so sounds complex. Sounds like my maintaining one fork is already difficult. So
That's true. I don't know. Do we still feel like it makes sense for it to be one project?
I think that it makes sense, because we have, even if we are just branching from our original fork, I think that from a process point of view, we will have two different processes to update those forks, to maintain them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Since like I know that we've split our group as two teams to maintain both categories. But that means that maybe from the point of view of a repository structure, it looks simple. But I think that we will be duplicating efforts if we end up having two different versions of VS Code for each product, for workspaces and the web-ide.
That's a good point. That's a good argument to keep it all in one project. And you would say even in one branch. So I'm also thinking too, like, what if we had main workspaces, or something like that? I'm just saying, like, because it'd be so easy then to just, oh, these are our workspace patches, these are our web-ide patches. And then when we update the web-ide patches, we can do something where we can try to automatically merge. I was wondering, is that an easier in the long run than creating the other option is we're going to kind of create some directories for VS Code patches. We'll have common web-ide workspaces, and we'll have to update our save patches logic, and everything is always going to be prompting of like, oh, what variant of patches are you working on?
Yeah. Let's make a thought experiment, or just a real experiment that we can try to approach. But I think that it's worth thinking about the development workflow when we want to implement a new patch for the fork. So let's say that I'm working on implementing a patch for workspaces that won't be relevant for the web-ide, and we are using the branch approach. Then I just check the workspace main branch and apply the patches. I make all my work, and then I generate the patches again. And then they don't apply to the web-ide because they are on a separate branch. think that's very simple. We can compare it with keeping all the patches in the same branch. In that case, we need to run a script that should, I think that's what you said, that should prompt you to either to work on workspaces or the web IDE, right? Like there is like the branching is happening every time that you make an action with using with branches. We only choose a branch once, and then the entire workflow happens in that Git branch.
Let me think. So you're talking about if just playing out in our heads, the branching solution where I want to start taking notes. I'm going to start taking notes here. So branches. So what if we had, we're almost thinking main workspaces is kind of what I'm thinking. Is that kind of what you're?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a developer needing to update patches for workspaces, I check out main workspaces and the current patch process simply running apply patches and save patches works out of the box. The weirdest thing here is if we do this, we have like two main branches. That's weird, right? And that's gonna be really weird. Don't you think?
We are just exploring one workflow of
Okay.
everything that is happening in that repository. We have to explore what happens when we have to make a change in the repository that applies for both projects, like for workspaces and the
Yeah.
web IDE.
Yeah. So cons, I can't help but say like having two main branches is going to be weird from a release and merge request perspective. Like, yeah. And we'll need to create an automation to update main workspaces whenever main changes, because it's possible we have like a common thing. We've updated like some patch that needs to apply to both. So we'll need to feed the those changes into there.
Yes. Yes, that's well, like when we are implementing a change, like updating VSCode or changing GitLab CI, how do we propagate those changes to the branch that is dedicated to workspaces?
Right. So
It's like in that case is where the duplication happens, right?
well, I think we can create, well, that's where I was talking about we could create actually move workspaces to a different fork. I think we can use like repository mirroring to do that. If instead of this being main workspaces, this was actually a different project, which was the GitLab workspaces VSCode fork, then we could use project mirroring to just keep pulling from, we could branch away from the default, but keep pulling new stuff from the default, you know?
Mhm.
So the other brainstorm is folders. What if we had patches common, patches web IDE, patches workspaces, rows we only have one project and one branch to as the for GitLab's VS Code fork. Cons is that apply patches and save patches need to receive a context, either web-ide or workspaces. And we need to delimit delimiter. What's those like separators? What do they call it? Delimiter? We need somehow separate common from the rest of the separate the common set from the rest of the patches. So it's like when I apply patches, if I just have a list of 15 commits applied, I'm like, we'll need to insert a delimiter of like, oh, an empty commit, which is like, oh, these are the common ones, and then everything after that is your special context. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. These are my which path seems more profitable? This is the D&D table. You're at a fork in the road. There's no turning back. Which
that makes it very hard. So it was a two-way door decision. It was reversible.
That's true. These are probably two-way door decisions. Well, that's the other thing too, is which path actually, probably lends itself to being reverted if this isn't going to work. Like which one's the most flexible as well.
Personally, I think the folders sounds a bit more like makes more sense. Especially if, let's say, the team creates other projects, then that allows it to expand pretty easily.
That's a good point.
That's a great point. Like it scales better. Imagine that we are creating one more branch per extra project or one more project.
Yeah. I'm inclined to go with folders. I was just as I was doing this, I was like, should we do branches? But I think for the releases and just the fact we'd have two mains is like, I could hear Chad now. I just don't want to go down that path.
I can hear Chad now, like, I would replace rebased for this.
That's funny.
No, I think that folders is definitely at least like to get started. I think it's worth starting to explore that idea. We will have to. It's easier to maintain a script that just needs an extra parameter than dealing with multiple branches or multiple repositories. Definitely.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, let's try it out. So let's use the rest of our time to try this out. Folders. Okay, so let me go to GitLab web-ide VSCode fork. So the way that these, let me go ahead and get the latest from main. The way that these patches work, Danielle and Joseph. So VS Code project here is a submodule. So in source control, none of that content is actually committed. It's just we only commit the commit that is pointing to. But for me to like tweak VS Code and develop on top of it, I'm not manually writing patches. That would be a little gnarly. Instead, what I do is I run in the scripts folder. I run dev apply patches. And that will apply inside of the submodule. It applies all of those patches, which I can then like amend, rebase, add a new patch, whatever I need to do. Now we're just doing git operations here. The base version is saved. And so then after I've made all of my changes, I then do dev save patches, and whatever is played on top of that base version is going to be saved off into our patches folder. So I like it. I think it's a pretty, it's a fun, I think it's a fun development process. So yeah, now we just copied the patches over. So if I had tweaked something, it would have been updated. So okay, so yeah, so we're gonna want to, we're talking about having a common. Do we like common as a word? Do we like calling it base?
I don't know, common, universal. There's so many synonyms.
Sub. Yeah. I'm gonna call it common. I don't have a better word off the top of my head. So I'm feeling like it's save patches and apply patches, which are going to need to take in the context. Both of these source from base, so that's cool. We could create a function that I'm getting too fancy, Enrique. I need you to stop me. We could create
Stop like coming with these fancy terms like functions. We just like just do statements and
well, I want to create
don't tell me that you're gonna use variables though. Like I couldn't stand that.
I want to create a function that if workspaces or web ID wasn't provided, it prompts the user for workspaces or web ID as your input. That sounds pretty fancy, right? That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we can use the fancy read line command, I think, right?
Yeah, there's a cool, I'm pretty sure there's a cool one. So okay, let's see if I can do that. If I create a function for get patch context. My only question is, so normally I'd use the $1. I would use that in a script to get what was the script called with the argument. If I use it inside of here, I'm going to get what was the argument used for this function. So I want to see if in bash, can I get the CLI argument from a function?
Can I chime in real quick just for my understanding? So currently we're working on a method to like figure out which whether we're trying to apply the patch to web-ide or workspace. So is that to basically figure out which patch we'll need to update? Because initially I was thinking that for the base. Oh, this is okay, sorry. So basically I was like, the reason why I was confused was for base, I would assume that if they didn't add which one was web-ide or workspace, wouldn't it just go to common? So you would only kind of want that delimiter if
That's a good question. We're always going to do common.
okay.
I think we want to, I want this, I don't want developers to like have to read documentation for like how to figure out how to use this. So I don't think there's a use case where they're not going to want to select either web-ide or workspaces. So I almost want to make it really easy out of the box of selecting one or providing it. So we could do some, yeah. So yeah, so I don't think we want to default to common. And if you didn't provide web-ide workspaces, let's try to prompt it for it. And if you did like provide something and it wasn't one of these, let's still prompt you for it. I think the more we can help the developer out with these tools, I think the better is going to be in the long run, because we won't have to train everybody.
Makes sense. I was just
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
no, it's a good question. What's this fancy reply thing you were talking about, Enrique?
Are you talking about prompting the user?
Yeah, do you know how to do that?
Well, let's step back to the function definition. What do you think if we just pass the like where we are calling the function, we pass the
Something like this?
the argument parameters? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
In
I
that
think that's a good
way.
idea.
Mhm. Okay, so that's problem solved. And
Yeah.
then inside the function, if the parameter is empty, I guess that we're gonna be checking for an empty string. Then we're using read line, right?
Yes.
Then
So
we can ask GitLab to, yeah. Oh,
where,
I thought you were going to use.
where is Duo? Where'd he go? He's gone. I don't know where Duo went. Duo, where'd you go?
You can use a version of the website, yeah.
Where'd you go? Oh my flip flops. You're so full of yourself. All right. All right. I'm writing a bash script. Here's what I got. It's just gonna laugh at me. If user input is not web-ide or workspaces, I want to prompt the user for one of those values. How can I do this? Ooh, while. That's a good idea. While, yeah. Okay. Hey, what do you think?
I could replace echo with printf to avoid adding a new line character at the end of the string. If that's going to be the return value of the function.
Okay. Yeah. Can I replace echo with printf so I don't get a new line character at the end? You know what I'm saying, Duo.
Ooh, fancy.
That is fancy. Okay, let's do it. You don't use a while loop every day, you know?
Much less in bash.
Yeah. So I almost want to do like please enter either web-ide or workspaces. How cool it'd be if you could figure out how to like get it to autocomplete. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. So actually what we're gonna do for the first one is we're gonna say we don't need to say invalid input like that. Maybe we could say invalid input. That's fine. All right, let's see how it works. If I do if I call scripts save patches. What? Oh no, it's called dev save patches. Line 10 unbound variable. What is going on? How did it tell me to call it?
Oh, that's probably because we are not passing a parameter, right?
I think I needed to do this thing maybe. Get patch context. line 10. That's here.
Try actually passing an argument to the script now.
Pass what?
Try to pass an argument to the script instead of calling it without arguments.
Oh geez. Well, printf isn't actually printing anything. Let's go ahead and put here echo you selected patches context. I think I might need to do like a default value here where I'm just
Yes, you need to replace it with the default.
So I could just do this, I think, to give it a default value. Joseph and Danielle, we don't normally do bash script. So I hope you all don't feel like bash is a critical piece of our code base.
Good to know.
Cannot assign in this way. I'm going to do this. Patches context input equals patches context input. Oh, maybe I could just do patches context again. That would be interesting. Okay. All right.
Sorry, we are using the default syntax. We are not using it correctly.
I think you're right. I have something like this. I want this to work even if I don't pass a argument into the script. Do I do the default of one correctly? You're very close. Ah, thanks. Thanks.
It is even condescending. That's so smart.
I know, but my okay, I was so close. It's not equals, it wants it to do a dash. Oh, okay, cool. So we're here. But it's not showing our message. Okay. Now it's not showing the printf message. The terminal is blank. I understand the issue you're facing.
I love the positive reinforcement from the AI.
Use
It really feels like, oh, you are not alone. Don't worry. Me, an artificial intelligence, has been there for so many times.
Oh, look at this. That's interesting. It's like piping the printf to this like stream or something.
You can, well, no. Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Look at that. Look at that. Sweet. All right. Web. Nope. Web. Nope. Web IDE. Oh yeah. Did
amazing.
we actually print out the you selected web IDE? Sweet. All right, we're getting the thing now. That's really great. Okay, so now let's actually make a helpful developer message. So I want to do something like I want to do like if it's one of, I want to have an initial message for like, hey, you didn't provide something. We needed scripts. This is why. Like, I want to document that here. I don't know how to do ifs and bash. It's something like this. I know this is wrong. How do I do if and this is the this writing bash, this is the reason why AI exists. It's like
There are like three main use cases: writing Docker commands, maintaining make files, and writing bash scripts.
I like make files. Okay. I know. All right. If what is that thing? I can't see it because of the copy thing. Ah, come on. Okay. If then. All right. If then. So if it's not this, I want to echo. Yeah, I guess I want to yeah. Let's do that. The how do I want to do this? The script needs the script needs context for either web-ide or workspaces. Please enter either web-ide or workspaces.
Question, do we also want to handle like empty space, like if there's an extra space? Or
No, that's on the user's fault.
okay.
They've earned their frustration.
Okay.
They're space happy.
Mhm.
Okay. This script needs context for either web-ide workspaces. Please enter either web-ide or workspaces. Web-ide. Boom. And if I don't, it's like, hey, invalid input, do it. Yeah. So I wanted to have a difference between the initial one and your previous one, your next one. Sweet. All right. That's great. We got a cool little Git patch context thing. Do we feel good about this? Is there anything that we could anything feel like we got to do with this? One of the things I love about Bash is it's so convoluted and difficult that I don't have to write tests for the functions, because what am I going to do? Write a test in Bash? I'm joking. Okay. Cool. So we get our patch context. So when I'm saving the patches, all right. So I am feeling like I need to create this. Right. So I feel like, so let's figure out how to do this. I don't know if we actually have any workspace specific patches. Do we, Enrique?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. I want to insert a delimiter in this like commit list for like, here's our common, you know? Let's figure out what's the set of common and what's web-ide specific. And I think the best way to do that would be through rebasing on here. And then we can look at the content of these patches over here. So, okay, so this is removing these dependencies. I think this is a common one that we'll do. This is Microsoft data stuff. That's definitely a common one. Removing IndexedDB for logs and files out of caution. I have a feeling this is probably web-ide specific thing. What do you think, Enrique?
What was the reason that we removed this?
The reason was VS Code stores a lot of history in the IndexedDB and was being extra cautious for private stuff getting stored into the IndexedDB. Right.
Okay.
Right now, it's included in the workspaces, so maybe let's not make that decision right now. Maybe we just keep it, and then we can decide later.
Okay. Yeah, if there is a security concern, maybe it's better to
Okay.
figure out later.
Will shut down event pub. You remember this one? This is definitely a web-ide specific one.
Yes, this only for the web ID.
Okay. Okay, so here, okay, in my rebasing, looks like I can say I can add a break with B. All right, so this B will represent the delimiter of common and web-ide ones. So will shut down event public API is a web-ide one. Support loading custom built-in extension. This is definitely a, do we use this for the workspaces?
What is the purpose of that patch?
This is a big deal for the web-ide. This is how we load in our custom
Oh,
built-in extensions.
okay. Yeah, that's web ID only. Yeah.
Okay. Customize get started page. I think this is web-ide only. This was an issue. We don't want this one for the workspaces. Always display extension marketplace welcome view is definitely web-ide one. That was causing issues too. Change message for debug. I think this is also web-ide one, right?
Yeah, we can debug in workspaces.
Right. Provide prompt for partial search. This is also web-ide one.
Yeah, that's one of the messages that is confusing workspaces because you can actually search.
Yeah. Remove hard-coded VS Code CDN references. I feel like this is one we want to keep, right?
That's common. Yeah, that's common.
Show the right font for markdown preview. Are we doing the font? Oh, let's go ahead and keep this for both. I have a feeling this is like fixing VS Code. Skip mangle and VS buffer. This is definitely a web-ide specific thing, but it's not needed for it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and include it since we're already including it. Fix walkthroughs. Okay, this is an issue, and that's just a VS Code bug.
Yeah.
Patch web view HTML. Oh no, what was this one again? Oh yeah, it's this one. This is a common one. We want to keep this thing, right? Don't you think, Enrique?
I'm thinking because the problem is that this problem is not reproducible on workspaces because the workspace is running in a separate domain. But as we did with the previous patches that were addressing security concerns, I think that this is not a decision that we want to do in this issue. It's something that we want to think about with more time and make the decision later.
Right. So let's keep it in common. That's kind of the thing I'm taking right now. All of these patches are applied everywhere. So I want to be just selective with only the ones that cause damage to workspaces. We'll move over to web-ide, but this one is already benign. So let's keep it. Change product. This one, we definitely.
Oh, that's definitely, yeah.
This is that's everyone hates this one. So yeah, this is a web-ide specific one. VS Code build customizations. I feel like we want to keep this one in common. Add documentation URL.
That's web ID specific. Yeah, those URLs are.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So yeah, this is web ID specific. Add popular to web query is web ID specific as well, right?
Side comment here, but I think that we should move those modifications to the web IDE project. That's something that we can set in product configuration. In the VSCode Bootstrap project.
Oh,
I
really?
think that it will give us
This
more
one?
flexibility. No, the previous two, the one that customize all the patches that customize product.json.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, except this documentation URL one. This one is needed because some of these values are injected at build time of VS Code. So there's some
Okay.
legacy parts of VS Code that read this product.json at build time. And that was a little frustrating for us to encounter.
Okay.
Okay, but cool. So it sounds like we got this. I'm going to just comment this so we don't lose our decisions on how we've decided to slice this stuff. So another note, we decided to slice the existing patches. Here's how we decided to slice the existing patches. Okay. Joseph and Daniel, you all are a little quiet. I hope I'm either feeling like, man, it's such a boring problem, or maybe you all think it's just so
I'm
interesting.
just quietly observing and following along.
I am like, I'm just feel like I'm throwing paint at the wall and seeing what sticks. So far things are sticking, but if something isn't vibing with you all, I definitely want to hear it because it might not be good.
No, I definitely understood the thought process and like understanding why the kind of change would be necessary and helpful. I think once got a little bit more into the weeds, I was like, ooh, kind of
Yeah.
lost a bit there. But I think that's something that as you know, I work more, it's like something I'll pick up. So
Cool.
overall understanding makes sense.
Cool. All right,
I
let's see.
have one question regarding the rebase. So are we
Yeah.
changing the order of the commits there?
There is going to be an order change. Yeah.
Just a suggestion, wouldn't it be simpler if we add a tag to each commit message, whether it's for workspaces or web ID?
Oh my God, I feel like you shoot down Paul.
Well,
I don't know, he's back.
that would be easier. I just have a feeling that, yeah, we should probably do it that way. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking, oh, we need to like add a delimiter to our list of commits, because that doesn't make sense. And I do think ordering might be important. Why was I thinking that? Oh, what do we want to do? Let me think. I don't know. So let's also think about like the way that these patches will be saved. They're going to be saved in common workspaces and web IDE. if I have web-ide commits intermingled with common commits, so then these numbers are going to be off on the different folders. And so if I have a workspaces commit now, that's like, okay, now I don't need this web-ide one, but maybe I need like 2 workspaces commits and stuff. Like I'm concerned about like, am I going to run into ordering conflicts if I allow the ability to intermingle common and web-ide ones? And so I think I was thinking, no, we're always going to just apply all of common in one batch, and then the next batch is going to be whichever one, just so I don't worry about order conflicts when I'm going back and forth between web-ide and workspaces. But maybe it's not an issue. But that's a really great question. Do we want to go down this path of we have a delimiter for here's your common, or do we want to put something in the commit message that specifies each one?
I think it gives better context if we don't change the history of the commit messages, the order, because if we have a tag, it's much easier to track the changes iteratively. Like when we had the first patch and we know what the next patch, we have some context there why this is being applied in reference to the previous one.
What do you think, Enrique?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction, like not thinking too deeply about this, is that the directory separation is enough for me to understand or to identify to which project a change belongs. Also, all of these commits are not interrelated. They are very unlike a normal repository where you have a series of commits that represents a stack number of enhancements, and they're like interrelated. In the case of these patch files, they're targeting specific areas of VS Code, and if we were to make a change in that area, we would probably end up squashing or fixing up those commits into a single one. So we're trying to see those patches as atomic series of changes. I understand the concern of like we want to keep the commit history because there is a risk if we end up reordering and then there are commits are interrelated, but that's not the case for this project. So maybe we can just keep it simple in the meanwhile, and then do that if we need it.
So just to I'm thinking of adding something like this, and I want to see how we feel about it. Like, common patches. Is there like an allow empty? Is that right? Jeez Louise, that's not right. Let's ask Duo. Hey, buddy. Is there an allow empty option for git commit? No. Final answer. Oh, allow dash empty. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is what we're thinking. So you see how there's now this, like, in our history, there's this delimiter of common patches and then our web ID, whichever context we were just in, whatever our specific one is. And maybe it's worth us just pausing and thinking, how do we feel about that? So what Daniel was bringing up was, okay, what if for each one of these conventional commits, we did feat web ID or chore web ID, or somehow like the commit message itself flagged what bucket it was going into. I think it's a good idea. One thing I'm a little hesitant about is like, okay, that's one more bit of like developer knowledge that someone that's working on this is going to have to keep in mind. So I'm a little concerned about that. I mean, if I was working on this, I'd be gonna be so confused. Like, this is already so weird. If you have no context, and you see common patches, but maybe, just maybe, it can kind of explain itself. But I am a little concerned about the ordering. The ordering is not important, as Enrique was saying, but if we do have like mixed and mingled common and web ID, then the way these numbers will play out, I'm a little concerned about that. I feel like that might not play out the way these numbers get generated might be problematic when I'm doing web ID ones and then I'm switching over doing workspace ones or whatever.
I think like this concern also becomes more important when you are regenerating the patches, saving them. How will you handle the order? Like, what will happen when you save the patches that are only specific for one project? Will the numbers restart?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about it, but I think what I can do now is, so currently what we're doing is we look for where am I doing this? Save patches. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Currently we look for, whatever the VSCode target SHA is. We do that up to head. What I'm feeling like we can do is, okay, let's find common patches. Let's find that commit. And that's one bucket. We'll save that off. Then whatever's before that into the VSCode target SHA, that's the common bucket. We'll save that off. So that's kind of how I'm anticipating on doing it. Does that make sense?
I think that Daniel's idea makes way more sense now. That we just want to have a way of identifying those commits.
Okay.
If we just follow a naming convention, although I don't know if we can, when we are running Git format patch, we can select commits based on their message. I think that we will have to do a ref parse for that, right?
Yeah, I think right, and that's a bit I'm concerned about too. It'll show up like probably we'll have to make sure it shows up in the file name somehow, and then based on the file name, we'll do post processing of putting it in the buckets however we need to. But then what if, as a developer, I'm working on it and I forget to do that? Like, how am I going to get informed? Like, is that going to be a pleasant developer experience? It might be. So I think where I'm at right now, geez, what happened here? What is going on here? Oh, wait, that's just me scrolling weird. I was like, yeah. I was like, what was and we're at time, but this is super helpful. I think, let's keep going down this path. I think I'm going to use this commit delimiter approach, because I think it's going to require less from the developer. But if we find that it's causing problems and we need to tag them, then we'll pivot to that approach after. I feel like this is still a two-way door decision, so we can make that decision later if we need it. But for right now, I think this might be the simplest one to implement at the moment. Cool.
Well,
Hey.
thank you for driving this pairing session, Paul. This was super useful, and it was very productive as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for your help, everybody. I'll catch you all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.